SocialFlow just released the latest installment of our white paper. We analyzed 18 million social posts so that you don't have to. Today, I really want to dive into the recycling of posts and why you would recycle. So here is an illustration of a website, and I'm just going to imagine that this is a website of a local television station. They've just created a story about a puppy doing something amazing. So they put it out on their Facebook page. And you see right there, it's going out into people's news feeds. People love it, and they're reacting well. They're sharing it. They're engaging with it. It makes them happy. It's getting a lot of reach. It's doing really well. So you've got a success story. And I want to illustrate something. I'm going to go forward, and I'll come back to this here. But you see this chart also from the white paper. 71% of the reach comes from 10% of the posts. So really, it's a very long tail behavior. There's a relatively small number of posts that generate the lion's share of the reach. This is where you want to focus your attention. When you have something that falls into this category, if at all possible, you really want to recycle it because you've got a great story that's resonating with the audience. And even when it's doing really, really well and say it gets great reach, probably only 10% of your audience is going to see it. So that means 90% are not going to see it. We'll talk a little bit about that more later. But I'm going to go back to our website here, and so imagine you've got the Facebook post. You actually recycle it for the first time, okay? This puppy story did really well. I'm going to recycle it. Maybe I do it the next day. Maybe I do it 3 days later. Maybe I do it a week later. And that's going to depend. That time horizon is going to depend on the type of story in your audience, and your judgment's probably the best to help decide that, whether it's something that you could recycle a couple of times over a week, or maybe it's a month, or even for seasonal stories, sometimes you'll come back the following year, and in the same season, if it's something around a particular holiday, you may be able to recycle. And we see a lot of people doing that kind of thing. So even over the span of an entire year, you oftentimes get a lot of mileage by recycling. So imagine you coming in and you recycle it again, and you recycle it again. You get the idea. You can recycle it as many times as you want, but I'm getting ready to show you some data that'll help you maybe guide your recycling strategy so you know how much is enough and how much is too much. But before I do that, I want to make one final point here, which is there's actually an opportunity to do cross-post recycling as well. So let's imagine, again, our Pittsburgh television station. They have a website. They have a Facebook page. They have a sister station down in Tampa with a website and a Facebook page. If you have a story that did really well in the Pittsburgh market that was about puppies, it may very well, in fact, it probably will do quite well in Tampa as well. So the opportunity, we see a lot of our clients doing cross-property recycling across multiple Facebook pages or Twitter handles. I'm showing you sort of a Facebook example. The same idea applies to Twitter and probably other social networks as well, but Facebook and Twitter are certainly the two most dominant that we see. So think about it as you've got a network of properties and that you're responsible for, or even if you're responsible for one or a subset of those properties, the ability to share content. You're probably already doing that informally, but one of the things we do at SocialFlow is build into our products the types of capabilities that let you manage multiple pages, assign the appropriate permissions, and really start to share and recycle content. And we think that's a really important strategy. So that's the how and the why of post recycling. Let's talk about the results here and dive right into the performance of what you'll see. So this chart right here you'll see shows recycling up to 5 different times. And so the original time is the first column there, and that gives you whatever reach you get from doing that. When you come back and you recycle it the first time, which is the second post, and that gets a little confusing, the first recycle equals the second post total, you see you get 1.5x the reach. The next time here, you'll see you're up to 2 times the reach. So 3 total posts gives you 2 times the reach. And then you can see going from there up to 2.4, 2.5, et cetera. And you see it definitely tapers off there. When you're up to 2.7, you've only gone from just a little bit of improvement. So you're really getting the diminishing returns. And so at some point, what this data would suggest is the third recycle is where you start to really get diminishing returns. And you may even want to stop at the second recycle depending on the type of content you have and your comfort level. And speaking of your comfort level, I want to talk about that, and I want to go on to this next slide here, which is this Venn diagram you see here, 3 circles, and this just illustrates 3 total posts. So the original post will say about the puppy, the first recycle, and then the second recycle for 3 total posts. And I'm just showing the overlap, and I want to illustrate quantitatively what we were talking about before when I said, imagine your first post got 10% reach, which means 90% of the people didn't see it. You post it again, and let's say that second post gets somewhat less reach, but it gets still whatever amount of reach it does, and the overlap between those two is actually right there is pretty small. And then you layer in the third post, and the overlap there is even smaller. So again, I know it feels spammy to try to recycle a post multiple times. It feels like, wow, I'm overdoing it with my audience. You take a great deal of pride and care in your content creation, and a lot of people feel like, I just don't want to overdo it. We completely understand that, but if you look at the data and you look at the results here, you really get fantastic reach by recycling. And from a yield optimization standpoint, and from a maximizing the value of your asset standpoint, you really want to think about recycling. And I hope you'll look at the white paper, dive into the data, think about this, understand how it applies to your properties and your network of properties if you have sister properties or affiliate properties. And I would definitely encourage you to think about it. So thank you for joining us today. That's it on post recycling. Join us next time and we'll cover another topic on Behind the Glass.